Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check the link above to my Patreon page. I'm here with the 5th and final round of a Modern Friendly League. I'm currently sitting 4-1, having beaten Grishelbrand, Affinity, and Jeskai Control. I lost to another Jeskai Control deck running Jace the Mind Sculptor, and so yeah, I'm here at 3-1, hoping to cruise to a 4-1 league. I won the die roll, and it's a pretty nice hand. These double Cavern hands with Kira can be a little bit awkward, but we're going to be able to draw a card off Silvergill, even through counter magic, and yeah, Mutavault is a bit of a house, especially in conjunction with Master of Waves, so I chose to keep, and the opponent kept 7 as well, so hopefully it was a good last round. I'm going to open with Cavern of Souls, Mutavault, since I'm pretty sure I'm going to play a Silvergill Adept. So basic island on turn 1. My experience could mean obviously a few different things. Could mean Merfolk, obviously. Could be any kind of control deck. Could be Esper, Grixis, Jeskai, Blue-White. So I wasn't really sure what to think yet. But blue mana does mean counter magic, and Cavern of Souls gets that much better. I'm going to just play my Mutavault here. I'm not sure what I want to name with the second Cavern yet. We might draw islands, in which case I might want to name Spirit. For now, we'll just go with Silvergill Adept and reveal one of, well, the Master of the Pearl Trident. Drew into a Harbinger. So Urza's Tower, it's blue Tron, against which we're really heavily favored, especially if we draw into Cavern of Souls. Having hit that island is beautiful because we can name Spirit with our second Cavern and get Kira onto the table. The opponent only has one Tron piece, which means they're super far away from being able to do anything really explosive. And they can't counter this guy. So I'm going to go ahead and play him and get in with Silvergill Adept. So the Lord got spatial contortioned. So we only get to swing for 2, unfortunately. We've got plenty more gas, though. Opponent plays a second tower and an Oblivion Stone. They're still 2 turns away from being able to sacrifice this thing, so we can still push some damage. Just need to be a little bit careful with that thing on the board. So this turn, I think I am going to name Spirit, but I think the best play here to push damage is to just put a Master of Waves onto the table. Get 2 tokens and swing in for 2. That means that next turn we'll be able to crack in for 11, putting them on a pretty aggressive clock. Okay, so Master of Waves getting spatial contortioned. The opponent played another island for their turn. And at this point, I think I'll just play out a Reejerey. Well, that was the thought. You know, I think the Reejerey is good here. I've got a Harbinger in hand, and if the opponent sort of sits back on casting, or sorry, on cracking the Oblivion Stone, I could potentially use tap triggers with Reejerey to sort of force the opponent's hand with Oblivion Stone. So I'll get the Reejerey down. They can't crack that Oblivion Stone yet, and get in for 3. Pressure the opponent's life total, and let's see if they have that 5th land. They do, and it's another Tron piece, which is a little bit frightening. We drew another Island Walk Lord, which is awesome. We've got pretty much all the lands that we need, and the perfect lands that we want. 2 caverns naming different creature types, a Mutavault, basic island, pretty nice. So the play here actually is pretty cool. I'm going to play the Lord of Atlantis with the Mutavault Cavern, with the Merfolk Cavern, target the Oblivion Stone with the tap trigger. If the opponent responds by cracking it, I'll lose these 2 creatures, but the Lord will resolve, and I'll be able to keep cracking in with with Mutavault for 3 points of damage. And I'll also have an Island Walk Lord established on the table. So let's see how the opponent responds to me casting the Lord of Atlantis and targeting their Oblivion Stone. So I feel like the play here is just to crack it and get rid of the 2 creatures on the board, but the opponent has priority. I'm not sure that they quite understood the dynamic at play there. They do need to tap the Oblivion Stone in order to sacrifice it, so now that it's tapped, they can't do that. So no need to commit any more creatures to the board. I'm going to activate Mutavault and try to get in for 11 points of damage here. It resolves. So, I mean, sorry, it gets through. Damage doesn't resolve anymore. So opponent doesn't have a land and they just pass through. I'm going to play the Cursecatcher and try to just repeat the same exact play. And at this point, if the opponent cracks the Oblivion Stone, I'm still going to be able to get in with the Mutavault for lethal. So the opponent scooped. So Reejerey kind of doing a cool job on that game, forcing the opponent's hand on Oblivion Stone. They chose not to crack it last turn, which seems like an obvious misplay, which resulted in them basically just losing very quickly after taking 11 points of damage. So as I mentioned, Mono Blue Tron, very favorable matchup for Merfolk. They give us Island Walk, and we just have counter spells to bring in from the board. I'll show you guys my sideboarding strategy. Look away for a second if you don't want to see the match result. Okay, back for game 2. The opponent's going to be on the play. Let's have a quick look at my sideboarding strategy. So I brought in all 4 Ceremonious Rejections because that's the single best card you can have against any Tron deck. And then I brought in my 2 Negates, which are also amazing against the vast majority of this deck's threats and answers, actually. So I took out 2 Master of Waves because they're very expensive, and getting killed by a Spatial Contortion feels pretty bad. So I took out 2 Master of Waves and took out 2 Spell Pierce, and I took out the 2 Kira. They don't have too many spells apart from the Spatial Contortions that can really target our creatures. They might bring in some number of Dismembers, but we can go 1-for-1 threat for removal pretty easily, and the Kiras are just kind of unnecessary. So again, Spell Pierces come out because we get outclassed from mana pretty quickly against Tron decks, and we just have better counterspells to bring in. You don't want to bring in too many counterspells. I mean, so Dispel can counter any of their counter magic. It can counter their Spatial Contortions and any Dismembers that they bring in. But it's just better to keep creatures in and keep pressure up. We've got 4 Ceremonious Rejections that hits pretty much anything they can play. 2 Negates. Again, just back up against enormous threats like Ugin, Wormcoil Engine, Karn. Yeah, so pretty easy sideboard decision. 6 pieces of counter magic in, very effective counter magic, and 4 less impactful creatures out, and 2 less impactful counter spells out. All right, this is a picture-perfect opening 7, and the opponent likes theirs as well. Mine and no map, and drawing Ceremonious Rejection is actually really, really beautiful there. I'm still just going to play out a Cursecatcher, get a clock onto the board. Opponent plays out a Tower and a Walking Ballista, which is a little bit frightening because if they just slam Tron next turn, they can start ticking this guy up, and I don't really have an answer for him. So the best answer is just to establish a clock. So I'll play my Cavern of Souls out here, and I'm going to go straight to combat. I don't know what the opponent's planning to do with this Ballista. I don't know what's in their hand, but if they want to trade a Ballista for a Cursecatcher, I'll do it all day. And they do. Maybe they're just afraid that I'm going to play a Lord, and they're going to have to kill the Cursecatcher anyway in response. But I was super happy to be able to trade that Cursecatcher for that Ballista. Having drawn an AEther Vial, a pretty easy decision to run that out with my gray mana, leaving up blue in case they have anything I want to counter. So that was a little bit shocking. On turn 3, they didn't have a land drop. They haven't played any Expedition maps, and they don't have any blue mana. So it's a pretty sketchy keep from the blue Tron player. One of my good friends plays blue Tron, and I told him about this keep, and he said it was ridiculous. You can't gamble on drawing into Tron. You either have to have blue mana and some control elements in your hand, or you have to have a Tron piece and a map or something like that. So now that we have this AEther Vial on the board, it's going to be really easy to start getting ahead. I'm going to go for Silvergill Adept here. The opponent whiffed on their land drop, so they can easily do that again. Yes, it shields down for a second with Ceremonious Rejection. Drew a Cavern of Souls, which is nice. We did want to hit a land drop, but that doesn't let me cast the Ceremonious Rejection. I can bring in Cursecatcher with AEther Vial on the opponent's end step. They did draw a land, but it was not the correct Tron piece. So here's a Cursecatcher. We're going to tick AEther Vial up, and we've got a lot of Island Walk Lords here, so I'll go ahead and cast 1 and swing for 5. If the opponent has nothing, I'm actually going to bring in another one. So that is, without doubt, a 2-turn clock here, and The opponent drew a card and conceded at that point. So as I mentioned, kind of a strange keep for the opponent. Since it's such a terrible matchup, it can be actually correct to keep borderline hands. But as a control deck, keeping a hand without blue mana and no expedition maps might have just been too much for him to want to keep that 7. Probably should have mulliganed. It is a very favorable matchup for us, so we expected to win it, and I was very happy to see it in this 5th and final round. Ended up going 4-1 in this league. So since I've gone back on mono blue in friendly leagues, I've gone 5-0, 4-1, and 4-1. The deck is feeling great. I might make a few adjustments to the mana base and the sideboard now that Jace is going to be running loose all over the place. I think maybe I'm going to change like some dispels into negates, so I have better answers in these long games against Jace. Yeah, and we might be seeing a bunch of Bloodbraid Elf. We're all going to need to make a few adjustments in the coming weeks and months, I think, as those cards begin to sort of reshape the metagame. So as always, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Let me know any thoughts or questions you have in the comments section below. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my Patreon page. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks very much, and I'll see you there.